Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. This is Roxanne Drake with Light for the World. I changed the name of my YouTube station from Lightbringer to Light for the World because Lightbringer just had too many um, negative things associated with it. Anyway, I wanted to record a quick video about George Floyd and everything that's going on. I wanted to talk about three things: my emotional response, number two, my demands that I would hope would come about from all of this, and number three, the hidden agenda that I see. So first of all, I'll just say I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and from my schooling, growing up there, and then going away to college on the East Coast, I just can see that there's systematic racism, definite systematic racism built into the American systems, all of the systems. There's so much marginalization that occurs, inequity, injustice that occurs, especially to people of color. So racism is a real thing, and I experienced, a lot of that growing up and when I went away to college. So I just want to say, seeing what happened to George Floyd under the knee of that cop was just emotionally devastating. When I first saw that a couple of weeks ago, it just had me in tears. And every time I would think about it and hear about him and what he was saying, as his cop was on his neck, I was just in tears. It's just crushing. It's like a memory you don't want to have in your mind, just such a sad, terrible thing. And so seeing something like that is going to bring out, the raw emotions in people. It's going to bring a lot of associations. And of course, it's going to cause rioting, and part of the agenda was racial division and rioting from the beginning. So yes, I just had a very strong, just heartbreaking response to what I saw. Now, as people go out and protest, they've been doing this for a couple of weeks. My daughter has been participating, actually two of my daughters. One of my daughters made a film about everything. She's documented stuff and everything. But one thing that I told my family as they went out there is that the important thing, after all your emotions have been expressed and all the rage is coming out and all that, is to know what you want to get out of this. What will your demands be? So I know you have political groups out there making demands and other stuff happening, but here's what I'd like to see change, just personally. And I don't know if this video will be seen by the right people, but here's what I'd like to see change. I'd like to see the homeless off the streets in LA. It's just a heartbreaking condition here. It's just more and more people living in tents and on the streets, and that shouldn't be. So I'd like to see, as part of the racial justice, or should I say ethnic justice, or should I say social justice, equality that comes about out of this situation, economic justice that comes about. I'd like to see the homeless people off the street. It's really pitiful. So I'd like to see every homeless person have a home. Let's see. Number two is I'd like land to be available to be given to those who maybe don't own anything in the city of Los Angeles, in the whole country. Those who have been marginalized and don't own anything. I'd like land to be available, maybe at a low price, or just free land to be available, a plot of land. And then grants for either businesses or homes would also be a nice thing. So that's three things: seeing the homeless get off the streets, land, a plot of land offered to people who don't own anything, because it's a form of inequity and almost indirect slavery when you have to work at a job. You don't own your own land, you're paying rent, and the people at the company where you work, they only want to pay you up to $15 an hour. and then your rent is way, way high. You never own anything for years. You're working. Some people are in this predicament. For years, they're working for low wages. They don't own anything. And so it's a form of like indirect enslavement. So yeah, ownership of land and property is important, and then having businesses and having a home. Okay, so that's kind of what I'd like to see come about as a change. And I wanted to say that as far as hidden agendas and secret societies, I do believe that was involved in this situation with George Floyd. I know there are Freemasons, there's KKK, there's other secret societies. And if you look at the foundation of these secret societies, they're built on certain things. Many of them are built on Luciferian principles, and they have certain agendas, and the agendas are not for the people. They are not for the welfare of the people. So when I saw this crime that happened to George Floyd, and the man who was supposed to be the officer that committed the crime, the look on his face, how he did this, that wasn't normal. That wasn't normal at all. It's not normal to sit on top of somebody with somebody crying out like that and have no expression on your face, and then just to sit there with your hand in your pocket. Something was very abnormal about that. And I believe secret societies were involved, and that there's a secret agenda. Many of us already know about the agenda to form chaos, civil strife, civil war, racial wars, because the enemy of our souls, the enemy of humanity, knows that divided we are weaker and they can take over. When we're fighting each other, or when they keep us in our minds divided between red and blue, or black and white, or this and that, then we're not as strong as we would be if we could be of one mind and unify. So just to get down to it, the techniques of our enemy is steal, kill, destroy, divide, create strife, and deceive. So there are secret societies behind the scenes in all major institutions, education, the government, the organizations that run the world. There are those behind the scenes. This is what I see. This is what I believe. And you can look into that. And there are those behind the scenes pulling the strings. And one of the agendas is, the New World Order, one world government. And these people who want to do this, President George Bush could be heard saying, out of chaos, we will create a new world order. So the people that want to do this, those that are ruling behind the scenes with a certain agenda, they need chaos, they need division, they need deception, they need the cover kept over what they're doing, so that we won't discover who the true enemy is. So let's see. I will leave you guys with a few scriptures. Despite the fact that I believe that there was a hidden agenda behind all this stuff that happened, and it wasn't worked by a typical policeman who was attempting to just be racist. There was something hidden about this. There was a hidden agenda about this. I do believe that. But despite the tactics that they used to start this chaos, there's still so much that has needed to be brought out about this. We need to confront racism. We need to confront our ideas. We need to love one another. We need to go for social justice and ethnic appreciation instead of division, and basically treat each other with love. So anyway, the scriptures that come up are, God will cause all things to work together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Now, I'm just giving you a summary of these scriptures. You need to look them up. So despite the enemy trying to do something for a certain reason, God's going to bring up stuff and cause things to be healed and things to be made right through all of it. He'll use the situation for good, okay? So there's other scriptures that say God is a God of justice. He's going to bring justice. There's a scripture that says the people of God, God's people, if they fall away, stray away from God and his ways, they will become oppressed. They will be taken from their land and they will suffer. So that's sort of like what has happened. There's also scripture that said God in the last days or end times or during the time of the millennial rule, God brings his people back home to dwell in their land, and they will dwell there peacefully and enjoy the abundance of the land. Okay, there's also scripture that says that God causes the unjust to store up riches only to give the riches away to the righteous. So the unjust store up riches to give to the righteous. Look that scripture up. And finally, there's a scripture in, I think it's Isaiah. And excuse me for not having all this together. Like I said, you can look these scriptures up yourself and get them, word for word. In Isaiah, it says that, during the millennial reign of peace on the earth under the Messiah, under Christ and the saints for 1,000 years, that the people on earth will take their swords and build them into plowshares. They will get rid of their swords, melt them down or whatever, and make plowshares out of them. And neither will the nations learn of war anymore. They will beat their swords into plowshares for gardening, and neither will the nations learn of war anymore. And I want to leave you with this. The reason they won't learn of war anymore is because like I said, our enemy, who I will say is Satan and his cohorts, he has people that work for him on the earth. They're in the secret societies. There's many high up people in leadership positions who work, according to the dark one's agenda. So those people will be exposed, put away. The scripture says that Satan will be bound and put into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years in Revelation. So when that deception is put away, and people can see clearly, and then the Spirit of God is flowing freely into people's hearts, they'll be able to love one another, and we'll be able to have that paradise and that peaceful harmony. We'll be able to enjoy and appreciate the different ethnicities and the variety that God has put on the earth. Okay, so listen, if you like this at all, please help me out by hitting like or subscribe or share or whatever you want to do, because basically my videos won't get seen until I get a certain number of subscribers or likes, okay? So I'm sending love to you all, and until next time, okay? Bye-bye.